to be more sensitive to people around us. And that is exactly what we are going to begin with right now. So now I'm going to throw a very interesting, fun activity to all of you. And I'm going to basically ask you to imagine a couple of characters at a 2x speed, like really fast imaginations, okay? And whatever or whoever comes to your mind first listening to those characters, just put them down on a piece of paper. Or if you have your phones, just you can put them down in your notes section. So quick putting down of these characters and at a 2x speed, right? So if all of you have got papers and pens or your phones by your side, you can just give me a thumbs up or yeses in the chat box so that I can begin with that. It's going to be super, super rapid. Okay, thanks, Afreen. Thanks, Siddharth. Thanks, Rajesh. So I have gotten a couple of yeses. Tulika, have you gotten yours?
Yes, I did give a thumbs up.
Okay, thank you so much. You are my eyes for the chat box, Tulika, and for all the reactions today. Okay, thank you so much, people. There's a lot of response. I am 100% aware of the fact that everybody has got their shoes. So the characters that you're going to see on your screen right now are police. First person that comes to your mind. Thanks, Shiva. Put that down, whatever comes to your mind. Police. Surgeon. Fast. Dancer. Just the first person. Don't analyze whatever comes. Teacher. Any character.
We have a few responses. Mom, Joshi teacher.
Okay, great. And then finally, cricket player. Come on. I'm going to analyze all the 5 characters together for all of you. Oh my God.
Dhoni,
that's quite a lot of responses.
Police is Simba. Okay, that's a nice one.
Yes. Dr. Murphy.
Sachin,
I am a big fan of Dr. Murphy too.
Virat, Dhoni. So we do have a lot of Dhoni fans over here. Tendulkar, Sachin, Dhoni,
Virat.
Sachin, Dhoni, Sachin, Dhoni. Yeah. Sachin
Gautam
Tendulkar.
Gambhir has also got a place, Tulika.
Yes. Yogi also has gotten a place.
Okay.
Okay, so Yogi for which one? I'd like to know. HP has written Yogi. So for whom you've given Yogi as the answer? We do have teacher, mother. A lot of them have written mother.
Very clearly.
Teacher Dr. Sandeep Ganguly. Okay. Sachin dancer Prabhudeva. Rahul Salman Khan. PV Satyanarayan. Sai Pallavi. Harihara Shri. Sachin Tendulkar. Prabhudeva. Rani Mukherjee from Mardani. Dr. Devi Shetty. MJ. Kusum teacher Smriti Mandhana. Dancer Puneet. That's a varied range of responses, and I guess both of us, Padmini, even we do agree to a lot of responses over here. Like
absolutely.
Mentioned Dr. Bishwajit. Yes, when you said surgeon, Dr. Devi Shetty, we all can relate to all these characters and people, personalities.
Absolutely, absolutely. Dharmesh, and then we have Arushi Mutkal, Kelucharan Mahapatra. Oh, so he's always answer that way. And mother. Okay. So what I am able to understand out of the whole thing is that bearing a couple of us, many of us did acknowledge, like apart from this one response that I got here, I think that response was from Sharmila. Yes. Rest, everybody could imagine a male character for police. For surgeon, I think most of us, we did imagine a male character again as a surgeon. Dancers, yes, males and females, but majorly males, we got that response, right? And for teacher, we could imagine our mother for most part of it and other significant teachers that way. And cricket players, definitely all the male cricket players that way. Now, if I ask you to pause and reflect on imagining Okay, Hardik Pandya also. Thank you so much, Vinu. But if I really ask you to reflect on these characters or these, occupations, just from the opposite character or other genders, how difficult is that to imagine? Is that really a difficult task for us to imagine a police who is not a male, or a surgeon who is not a male, a dancer who is from any of the genders, a teacher who's from any gender, again, a cricketer who's a female or from a non binary gender that way? Okay, I'm getting a couple of responses here. Too difficult to remember the names upfront. That is very true, because we have commonly seen certain characters in certain forms, and we very conveniently are led by those examples, right? I mean, that's how our brain works. Neurons works the same way. The more it gets exposed to certain things, the more it makes that concept concrete. So if you've seen a lot of cricket players to be men, your brain is automatically going to work that way. That is also how the biases in our society works, and that is exactly the point of discussion today. A couple of more things. Okay, right. Yes, Afrin, thank you so much for confirming that. We actually would be diverging into understanding what exactly is the difference between sex, orientation, and gender, to get hands-on and how exactly society sees it differently and how it establishes the different biases. So, what do you think?
Right. So, like Afreen, you've mentioned imprintation so correctly put that yes, it does get imprinted into our minds, and that is why the most of the responses that we saw, it was very upfront. When we saw cricketer, the first name that came to our mind was Dhoni, Tendulkar, Virat, Gautam Gambhir, and lot. Now, when we are trying to ponder over it and reflect over it, we're coming up with responses like Rajesh has mentioned Mithila Raj. And that is so true that, we are somehow associated with our own perspectives when it comes to different kinds of occupation or different kinds of roles. So, have we ever given it a thought that why is it so important and critical to distinguish between these three terminologies and these three concepts: sex, sexual orientation, and gender? And what's the basic difference between these three concepts? Can anyone help me out with a few responses? And guys, there are no right or wrong answers. So please feel free to share your responses. You can unmute yourselves and share and interact with us. We'll be more than happy. So, what are the basic differences between these three concepts? Or are they even different in real life, or are they just similar? It's different names given to these three things.
Kulika, I feel like it's the only point of view every person has. Like there is no discrimination between females or males in any sector. We can say that if a particular male person is being discriminated in dancing, then it is wrong. People feel like if gender
Correct.
discrimination or the point or the concept of even sex or orientation or versus gender comes into picture, everyone will think that only we are supporting females or so. No, I feel like that is wrong from my point of perspective. If someone is getting deteriorated in any point of fair or any sector, that should be immediately stopped and everyone should be treated equal. This is my point of view.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so true, adding on to what you just said, like I mentioned at the beginning, only treating everyone fairly and with the same amount of, respect is something that everyone owns. That is our right. And that is something we all need to do. But, when we often come across these three terms, even when we have a lot of clients come to us, they usually get confused when they have to talk about the difference between sex, sexual orientation, and gender. I guess from time and again, we've come across these words and we've tried to understand what it is. So, putting it very simply, we often confuse because we feel that gender and sex, they are the same terms. Sex and sexual orientation, they are somewhere, interconnected and interlinked. But to make it very easy, and when we actually find it similar, that is the time when we end up making faulty assumptions and conclusions. We end up jumping into conclusions very easily. So in very short format, sex is nothing but it's about your body. Gender is about who you feel yourself, as to who you are and you feel yourself to be. And sexual orientation is about whom you're attracted to physically, sexually, romantically, psychologically. So that's the basic difference. When we talk of sex versus gender, sex is what you're born with and it is same everywhere, whereas gender is something that we start learning socially. And this is where, we also have the binary concept coming into place, and that is something wherein we need to focus on, and even they deserve respect. So that is something that we will be touching upon in the further slides ahead. So let's play a quick game, a quick reflective activity. Let's check, who's updated. Can we have the first one, Padmini?
Sure.
Gender inequality is a new concept seen in the society. Do you all feel it's a myth or a fact?
It's a fact.
Okay, can we have a few more responses? Dipankar says yes. Yes to which one, Dipankar?
I feel like it was a fact rather than it is a fact because people are learning more and more about it.
Yeah, so I think that is very correct. Gender inequality has been since ages. It's just that now we are actively protesting against it. We are more aware. We are trying to establish a more gender neutral society. But it has always been there since ages, since a very long time.
Right.
Okay, next.
Gender inequality is experienced only in restricted fields.
Yes. Come on, people. Is this a myth or a fact?
Hi, this is
It's a
Priya.
myth.
I guess it depends on the geographical areas also, based on the developed
Correct.
and underdeveloped nations.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is there.
Actually, it is there even if you talk about southeastern countries. So they have more females coming on the maybe on the airports, maybe on the other side. Even if you talk about southeastern countries, there are more on the ladies are coming first. Even if you take the males are coming on the lower side, but everybody is like so. Still, it's not the fact, but it's going on.
Right, right. So I think that's a very good analysis. And while we are looking for myths and facts on gender inequality, I would also want all of us to think gender inequality on the lines of binary and non-binary genders altogether. Like it's not only men and women. Apart from that, we also would have to reflect on the non-binary gender as well, like the whole of LGBTQI community. So that way, if we see probably women right now in the modern cities, in the developed countries are very much, advanced. There's no restriction that they feel in most part of it. But if you look at the queer community, they are still feeling restricted for most part of it. They're still struggling for their rights, for being conceived as one amongst everybody, right? Not to be discriminated significantly. So this would be a myth.
Right. And we have gotten, responses as myth. And like
Yes.
very rightly put that, yes, it also is very geographical specific, like culture specific also, because, your thoughts and all your perspectives come from your root values and your other values as well.
Right.
Okay. So moving on, the next one. Gender inequality is a learned concept. What do you guys feel? Is it a myth or a fact?
It's a
Sharmila
fact.
says fact.
It's a fact.
Absolutely.
Yes, it's
Because
Absolutely.
it comes from our upbringing also. It affects our growth.
Correct. Correct.
Absolutely.
And it's also a fact, guys, I feel that we model what we learn and what we observe and see. So when we are growing up, if we are modeling someone's behavior, we are learning in the same time. So automatically it becomes a very learned concept. So yes,
Absolutely.
all of them have told that it's a fact.
Fact. Clearly
Like,
sealed.
absolutely.
Yes.
The roles played by each gender are predetermined by nature. So guys, we don't want you all to fight with your husbands and wife pose this question.
To some extent, I think it is a fact, because when children also play, we are girls play with dolls and other kitchen sets, boys play with cars and other trucks. That may be predetermined by nature, but to some extent, not completely.
Okay.
Right, Vanilla. So I will take that up. I was like, while researching on gender inequality, what I came across was a lot of videos where children, right, from a very young age, are reinforced with the concept of choosing toys. Now, all the boys are not really interested in cars or guns, and not all the girls are interested in dolls.
Yes, exactly. The color also, if a boy selects a pink color, they are judged because they're selecting the pink color. You have to select bright colors, not the pink. Pink is a girl's color.
Right.
That's very well identified. And that, confuses little children all the more. They're not sure if they are supposed to be frank about what they like. For most part of it, they hide it because they also want some validation from others, clearly.
Correct. And it's this particular part, because when they're growing up, when we constantly say that no, pink is a girl's color, or when a child is born, even we automatically decorate the room with pinks and blues. We kind of instill that particular thought in them, that being a girl, you're supposed to play with toys, and being a guy, you're supposed to play with cars. So it is automatically, definitely times are changing right now. People have become pretty progressive. They're understanding the concept of gender, and that it's not always the roles that is predetermined that you have to reflect and play. So we are changing. And if you see, Padmini, Sharmila has put it across so beautifully that myth, traditionally women would hunt and gather food, whereas men would guard the caves and children. So yes, we have evolved so much from this generation to what she's mentioned to where we are right now.
Absolutely. And I will touch upon this portion also, Sharmila. Thanks for bringing this up. This sets a base for my discussion sometime later. All right, moving to the final myth or fact. Awareness is the key. Yes.
Go ahead, Padmini.
Okay. Awareness is the key to breaking to the inequality. Is that a myth or a fact? If we are more
It's a fact.
It's a fact.
I guess an awareness itself is not enough. We have to apply that in our lives.
Correct.
True, that is very true, Vanilla. But I think understanding the fact that we need to make a difference, obviously, we need to do a lot more than that. Just being aware doesn't really help. And you were bang on, right, with the fact. But yes, it is understanding the fact, being aware of the fact is definitely a prerequisite. That is the key to break from this inequality at any level. And it's not only for gender, it is for anything for that matter. Like, for an example, if I'm not able to accept my own depression, given a particular situation, if I'm feeling horrible and I'm just not accepting it, probably I'm losing out on an opportunity to work further on that. So once I accept it, then only I can look for solutions. If I'm not accepting it, I'm definitely not going to look for any solution. So that is why we will consider this as a fact.
Correct. And over here also, the entire concept of accepting and being aware of the entire thing and not being in denial also plays a very important role. Like you mentioned that, yes, just awareness is not what we need, but then that is the first stepping stone. Once you're aware that, okay, that's the entire key to break through the entire concept of inequality, we can definitely mend our ways and, progress further. So I'm so happy to see all the responses, guys. Thank you for being so interactive over here and your responses. And it feels great to see that we all are on the same page and we know a lot about gender inequality, what's to do and what's not to do.
Absolutely. And again, at this note, where things have gotten a bit serious, let's do another quick rapid fire round. Okay, it is going to be a bit lengthier than the previous one. But again, I would want the chat box to be flooded, or just unmute yourselves and quickly say it, right? Tulika, you're going to take a count on this, right?
Correct.
So I'm going to present you with a series of probably occupations and stuff, and you're going to tell me, you all are going to identify where usually people from their traditional biased sources of mind would want to fit these people, Okay, we have put it with a lot of analysis, so we'll do it at a really 2x speed here. Okay, first, be accommodating and emotional. Where does this particular trait fit, this personality trait?
Women.
Women,
Afreen
men.
says women.
I guess it should be both men and women.
Absolutely.
It should be both.
Expected from both.
Everybody
Expected from
for
both.
that matter. It should be
Absolutely.
from the
Both.
non-binaries also. but
Chandni has
again,
mentioned human being. That's so nice and a very
right,
warm way to put it across. Correct. Human being,
Right.
both.
right. But very sadly, society expects only women to be accommodating and emotional. I'm glad that here in this particular group, we are more in form of in for of human beings and every gender for that matter. Okay, there are few more responses. Yes, it's felt to be with women. I meant yes, absolutely.
People perspective. Absolutely, Mamta.
Absolutely. Yes. Fashion designer, makeup artist. Where does society put them? Think from the society's perspective, not from your modern perspective.
Society gives for women, celebrities give it both for men and women, maybe.
Yes.
Right.
So basically now it's women and non-binary, like the LGBTQ, the queer community. That's where society would want to put them. Okay. Now the third, do household chores.
Woman.
This is an undisputed
Women.
question. Only women.
Very sadly, both your facilitators are also women. So men here, it's purely biased.
Chandni has mentioned women. Sadly,
Yes, yes,
yeah,
yes.
Chandni.
That's so
we
true.
all can, resonate with that sadly part.
Absolutely, absolutely. Be aggressive and self-confident. So who are expected to be aggressive and self-confident?
All of
I
them.
think men's.
Men.
Men. So much of pressure on men, right? Right from their birth.
Correct. Mamta says men. Rajesh says men. Nirup says women. Shrikant says men according to society. Correct.
I think Nirup was trying to be very sarcastic here. No, he said women again. Okay. Yeah.
Priyanka
Right.
says women.
Okay.
It is
Okay.
correct. It is men, and more so because it's always said right from your growing up days. You're taught that you have to be confident, you have to be responsible, you cannot feel your feelings, you cannot show that you're sad and emotional. So automatically, a man takes in that very aggressive, outlook that okay, whatever happens, I need to own it up and I need to take responsibility and go take it up in my own ways. So sadly,
Absolutely.
yes, it's men.
Right. Okay. Now, take care of finances.
Men.
Very sadly, yes.
Both.
And
Both. Maybe
now both. Now we are expecting that to be from both. But society
Women.
never pressurizes the women to,
Correct.
earn and take care of the finances. It's only the men who have realized that now we need this balance, right? But traditionally, it's always the men who have suffered.
Sharmila has written both women manage household budget too. Absolutely.
Yeah, we're gonna cover very interesting part in that. Sharmila, you're just disclosing all that I'm gonna talk.
Sorry for that.
No, I'm happy for that, Sharmila. Okay,
Teacher,
teacher.
etc.
Yes.
women.
I guess both. Because we
Yes, it's
have
both.
males and females both. So
Both.
Now it's both. Like I told you, right? Guys, don't think it from your perspectives. Think
no,
it
in the
from
society
traditional society.
perspective, society's perspective also.
You people are way too modern for this workshop. Okay. Now, doctors, pilots, and police.
So, guys, I'll add one point over here. So, I come from a place wherein, when I was in my school, that time, the ratio of the teachers, male versus female, it used to be like it was always, 95% female and 5% male. So, if any time you would meet someone on the road and, your acquaintance, and that person would say that I am a teacher, and he's a male, people would look down upon that, and then he would just suddenly become a very comic character for everyone to make a joke on him, to laugh, because that's where the entire concept comes, that initially people used to think that teachers, nurses should be female, they are fit for that role, and having male, yes, but mathematics teacher should always be a man. That's how
Yeah,
things,
yeah.
progress, and people would take it up in that way.
Okay,
Pavit
so
has
here, yes.
I could read that out. I
Yes.
think we're discussing the products of bad values. The idea is to hit the root cause. Values, that's it. Absolutely.
100%. All right. So again, doctors, pilot, police, traditionally men are preferred,
Men.
but right now a lot of women are also like at families,
I just
women are
wanna,
also encouraged.
yeah, it's Pavit here. Just wanna make a small point here. See, of course, there is an agenda no, to this session, and I'm sure there would be a lot of takeaways. But just a small point that I would like to make here is that, see, end of the day, what we're discussing is bad values. And I don't know, when we say society, define society, because I don't live in that kind of environment. I just try to stay away from it, because I believe in values. Because I believe values determine the nature of your problem, and my nature of my problem defines the challenges of my problem, and the challenges of my problem defines the quality of my lifestyle. Simple. I repeat this one more time. It's about the values, nature of the value, the challenges. My challenges define my lifestyle. So you have two types of values. One is a socially constructive value, and then on the other hand, you have social and destructive values like gender biasness and inequality and whatnot. If we just focus on what are good values and try to inculcate that, I don't think this all would be needed in the first place. We are emphasizing why on these bad values. Let's just focus on values and then move to good values. That's it.
Pavit, I'll just take this up. Basically, there's a reason why you need to get into history. History has always been a very significant subject. Now, a lot of us might not really agree to that. Why we need to understand history is because we need to understand where all we have gone wrong to
This
correct
is
it.
not history. These are preconceived notions, stereotypes, patriarchy, and then you're trying not to break the dichotomy just because you want to go back and revisit and make a case study and try to. It's good that we are creating awareness about it, but why we're discussing bad values? We can just focus on values, and all this will fall away. That is my whole point. Good values are reality based. Bad values are based on preconceived notions.
Good values, when you establish them upon bad values, that makes a lot of sense for you. Nobody just follows good values because they are good values, Pavit. So we are going to focus on how we are going to take away from here and what is it for us to take away, because obviously we do not stick to these notions very clearly. We also do not agree. I mean, most of us in this group do not agree to these notions, and that is what awareness means. Once you're aware, like as I discussed before, that's where you break from the dichotomy of the whole stereotypes, and that's where you make a move. So you don't have to really worry on that, Pavit. We are actually going to touch up on that. You just got to wait for a couple of moments. But thank you so much for bringing that up. I think that also speaks about how we see a lot of things. And this is important for everybody to understand, because we ourselves are a bit uncomfortable. And this uncomfortable feeling is what is going to help us come out of it. Because obviously, no one is very comfortable discussing the inequalities, right? Thank you. Okay, moving forward. Being thin and graceful. Obviously, most of us would expect a woman to be thin and graceful for most part of it, and men are expected to be usually tall and masculine.
Muscular.
Yeah.
And if you
Right.
see, Sharmila has mentioned sometimes the so-called bad values are also called unconscious biases.
Absolutely, absolutely,
So we do have responses, women, yes.
absolutely, yes. Now, communicating these gender differences, how and when are these communicated? Right from the point we grow up. Previously, as Sharmila mentioned sometime back, that there used to be a time where women used to go hunting, gathering food, and men used to be the people guarding children and the caves. But eventually, what happened under the law of the jungle is whatever was mightier was the only thing that came out to be powerful and strong. So technically, men were mightier and men started being powerful. That's why the patriarchy begins. And over the years, men started dominating just based on that might, physical strength, and finances, which they would acquire. And because women did not contribute to the finances, they were treated as commodities and not as human beings. And that's how you see these things coming up very clearly, even in the recent ages. If it's a man, you see them being blessed with a lot of fortune and go conquer the world and stuff. And if it's a woman, they are blessed to have a very decent, peaceful life, out of all the conflicts and clashes that way. But it's also very interesting to understand where is this gender inequality seen for most part of it. To address the gender inequality, you need to first identify where all do you see these inequalities. And very clearly, in your parenting, that's where it begins for most part of it. I mean, some of us are really blessed with parents who have not discriminated us just based on gender. But again, that also takes a lot of their reading and their awareness around gender equality for that matter. But most of us have suffered inequality right at the beginning. The fact that you get a doll or you get a car is established right from the beginning. Maybe not exactly your parents, but somebody who's guarding them definitely contributes to. So it can be anywhere, any place, any belief, any gender oriented specific person can really reinforce it. It can be observed during work, and that's where a lot of work life imbalance comes into picture, wherein you see for different genders the concept of work life balance is significantly different. Like if I was to ask this question to the women in this group, what would be your work life balance, imagining your work life balance, that would be significantly different from how men in this group would imagine the work life balance. And for that matter, the non-binary gender in the group would also imagine work life balance to be. So work life balance in general, while it refers to how an individual balances, schedules their personal and professional hours, but if you actually go a level deeper, you see increasingly in both the genders, the pressure of contributing to the family is there. But how exactly, that differs. So for a man, probably even now contributing to a family is mostly on the lines of spending that quality time, right? Very rarely, probably you only see it in the tier 1 cities in India for now, that men are in fact like maybe 20% of the men are actually coming out to divide the household chores equally. But if you see, most of them, majority of them are only concerned about spending that quality time, and most of it is on the weekends, while women, irrespective of whatever, in 50% of these studies have been found to automatically take the household chores as their responsibilities. In most of these cases, this is not even spoken to them, but this unpaid housework has something that they have picked up on. And a very recent Canadian study, proves this, where 50% of unpaid homework or household chores is what you call that, which basically doesn't give you a lot of satisfaction working, is still done by women more than men taking it up. And when it comes to the queer community, the LGBTQA community, you see, again, in another very recent study, it was published in the Harvard Business Review. That's where we got it from. There's this whole lot of extra work, stay beyond work, and then, talk about rejections, facing that on the face of it. Being underpaid for the same level of work, that's why they suffer, coming back to their partners and not being able to face that extra time that's spent at work, and then not being able to balance that at home. These are the significant issues that still, people who are falling in the women or the queer community, they suffer when it comes to the work-life balance. It's not really balanced for them. Right? While all of us are suffering, maybe the suffering is a bit more here. And I think that's where a lot of need of, how do we put it across, the rules to identify where exactly people are falling back, where exactly the balance is being lost comes into the picture. I think most of men, like if you compare women who are unmarried or who are choosing to not have children with men, you see that balance being there. But if you compare a woman who is married with dependent children versus men who are married having dependent children, you actually see that difference of work-life balance. Okay, now moving forward, I think we have discussed too much and it is a bit heated right now with so much of intense discussion. So another very interesting activity awaiting you. Over to you, Savik.
Yeah. So like you guys can see, we've put across 4 words, and these are the job titles which we all are aware of. We've come across these job titles, we do come across in our day-to-day life. Now, I want you all to think of ways you would want to change these titles and make it more gender fair and gender neutral. So let's give it a quick think. Let's see how quickly we can actually come up with responses. So, manpower, how do you want to, what would you do to change it and make it more gender neutral? Human power, human capital, very nice. Guys, again, no right or wrong answers. Please feel free to share your responses. Empowerment, yes.
Empowerment, that is interesting to see.
Workforce, correct. And we did get, correct responses over here that yes, rather than saying manpower, we can always say human effort, human workforce, empowerment, workforce. We are bringing in the entire community because anything is not done just by a single individual. We have a lot of them working towards it. So absolutely correct, guys. Moving on to the next one, sportsmanship. Now, this is a bit tricky. I'll say you guys why. Spirit of sports, yes. You can come up with your own terms. It's absolutely okay.
We can create some. Come
Yes.
on. Sportiveness.
Correct.
Sporty.
Sporty. Sporting, yes. Sports person, correct.
Afreen's is my favorite now. Sports person, very gender neutral.
And if you see, guys, the moment we see these words, we do have a lot of other gender neutral titles also. But it's made in such a way that we have gotten used to these words. Sportsmanship, manpower, but to talk of it, leader of the team. Mokshita, yes, a very nice one, leader of the team.
Yeah.
So, sportsperson, sportsmanship on the whole is a very researched word. And as per a lot of researchers and articles, it is said to be a gender neutral term. Though it has the word man, it already is said to be a neutral term, but then I guess we would still go with and would want to change it to a sports person or spirit of sports and a lot of other responses that we've already gotten. Sportsmanship is a quality, yes. Okay, the next one, man-made. Human-made, yes.
This is easy, human-made, but this is very apt. Also, thanks, Rachna, for this.
Human-made, handmade. Few more responses on this, guys.
Come on, you can just unmute yourselves.
Yes, how would you want to change man-made and make it more gender neutral? Come up with fancy titles. Unleash that creativity, self-made.
We can call it better an invention instead of man-made. We can call it invention.
Yes, Afreen has come up with a very nice one. Human innovated. Spandan says artificial. Artificial, not natural. Yes, invention. So see, the moment we try to reflect a bit over the words and the situations around us, we do get creative and we come across with amazing titles. The last one, housewife. This is an easy one. Homemaker.
Yeah, homemaker.
Right. Anything creative? Anything creative apart from homemaker? I guess homemaker is something we all know. Afreen, we are waiting for your response. Home manager, yes. Home minister, correct.
I think Home Minister is taking the show.
Okay, so you should see Mujataba's response, Arjun Kapoor. Okay, that was pretty creative. Durga, Durga Prasad says, housekeeper. Nirup says, everyone's care. Take care. Afreen says, a person who creates a comfortable person anywhere.
Who plays major role in our family.
Absolutely.
Yes. The
So we can
family
consider
manager.
the prime minister also, right?
Yes. The home minister is the response by
Correct. Family manager, not person, place. Okay, okay.
Okay. All right. Okay. Great.
PM is jockey. Okay.
I can say like it's a backbone of our family, backbone.
Correct. Absolutely. Taking all the responsibility of home. That's why we call also home minister. Correct. Managing each and every aspect. Absolutely. Thank you so much, guys, for your responses. And if you come to it, pillar of the house, Priyanka says. Right. So when we think of it, the moment we focus on a few terms and titles that's already in use, um, like, policeman, and then if you go on for other words like fisherman. So if we think of it and we become a bit more creative, we can come up with our own titles, which is more gender neutral and gender fair, because you can expect people from any community to be taking up that role. So we need to be more respectful towards each and every individual.
Right. Oh, it's high time to see how, like, what are the consequences of gender inequality? Maybe with this interests you a bit, and this could be an answer to the questions that you've asked them.
Correct. So when we talk of gender inequality and the consequences, I guess, time and again, we've read about it, gender inequality. We've probably watched some series, movies. We've heard news about it. And there still exists gender inequality. And the consequences are sometimes the person is treated in a very unequal and unfair way. Like Padmini mentioned, there are times when wages get sacrificed because you are treated in an unfair manner. Discrimination upon not sticking on to the expectations, because the concept of a male person being the expectations are really high, and sometimes you're discriminated to a certain extent. Definitely now times have changed. We have changed a lot, and things have become pretty bright, and the future ahead is very, very bright. But initially also we have come across these experiences, and in our day to day counseling and therapy, we do come across a lot of clients who have been who have gone through these traumatic phases, and they do come to us to seek help. And that is where the entire personal distress also comes into the picture, because when you are going through a rough phase, you are treated with unequally, and you are not happy about the way others are treating you, you automatically start feeling very low and depressed. That trauma hits you hard. Like if you see nowadays, I guess most of us are on social media, Instagram, and maybe we do follow a lot of people from the queer community, and there are people who are doctors from that community, but then still people make fun of them, they pass rude comments on them. And that, after, like, I follow a person, she is a doctor, and she has noted it down several times that even after being in that particular position, people have mentioned it to her that we don't want you to operate us, or we don't want you to even diagnose us with anything. So the distress that they're going through, the trauma, that educational qualifications does not matter. It's the person who you are defines what exactly you should be doing. So when we become more gender aware, we start acknowledging that every person has the right to live, and every person should be treated in a very fair and true manner. We're not discriminating. Expectations should be very realistic and should be equal for everyone. The behavior, our beliefs will start changing significantly. And that is the time when we will become more gender sensitive to the situation that's present and the prevailing environment. And definitely we are in that particular society, and the times have come wherein changes have happened massively, and we just want that everyone becomes more and more aware, so that nobody from any particular community has to go through these traumatic phases. Everyone's loved, everyone's scared, and we get that respect. Having said that, I guess most of you all know about POSH, which is an act, wherein sexual harassment comes into the picture. So every corporate has something known as ICC, which is the Internal Complaint Committee. If you find any of your colleagues, any of your counterparts, team members going through any stressful time, and if they come and confide to you and they share their concerns, it's always good to help them connect with ICC, help them connect with the notable people, so that they can take further actions and they can move ahead. So it could be anything, right from physical contact and advances to demands for sexual favor, making sexual colored remarks or catcalling, or making them feel miserable at times, showing porn for that matter, and even unwelcomed touches, advances, could be non-verbal contact also. Doesn't always have to be very physical and verbal. Even those non-verbal looks and sometimes those smirks makes a lot of difference. So always take that stand and help that person in need, because like you mentioned empowerment. Yes, that is something we need to do. We need to empower people against sexual violence. Gender justice is very important, and it is very, very important to let people know. So if someone is coming to you, firstly acknowledge what the person is saying. Do not counter question that very moment. Let the person say, let the person went out in a very healthy manner. It shouldn't just be emotional dumping at that moment. Let the person say, be there, try and listen to what the person is saying with compassion. Do not judge, do not throw across your perspectives and your assumptions and conclusions. The person should feel that warmth, because that person, see, the moment a person comes in and wants to say something uh, with regards to sexual violence or sexual harassment, you have to understand that the person has already gained a lot of courage to come forward and speak about it. So just be there, offer practical support. If you feel you're not in the position to offer any practical support after listening, just create that safe space, because the moment you are there for the person, you're giving that warmth and you're listening, that space is already created. The person is able to trust you. So build that rapport, and when you feel that you're not able to offer any practical support, please reach out to people, reach out to committees or your ICCs or anyone in a higher and superior position in your organization or in your family or anyone that you know, so that the person can get immediate help, and the correct and the right people will reach out to the person, and the person will not have to go through more trauma because of not getting help at the right time.
Right. Thank you so much, Tulika, for taking us through this. Now, being aware of the gender differences, addressing the consequences of gender inequality, and finally understanding the legalities of handling it, we get to move to addressing the diversity, accepting it, and finally making a move towards including everybody, being a part of the group or making everybody a part of the group. How exactly do we consider diversity? Is that just, or an inclusion, is that just about tolerating every single gender, or is that about accepting? I'm sure, I mean, obviously all of us, we are morally very boosted, we are ethically strong. So it is not really about just tolerating every single gender. It is also about accepting them, accepting everybody who's different from us in whatsoever, right? If we are from the non-binary queer community, accepting the binaries. If we are from the binary community, accepting the queer communities. Inclusion essentially refers to creating a space, an environment around you where people are very much welcomed. They feel valued and respected for who they are, not really questioned at that, or not maybe making them feel that we are doing a favor to them by accepting them. We are not doing any favor to them by accepting them. It is their right, it is everybody's right, it is our right, and we just gonna make them feel that with the full acceptance. That's exactly what full acceptance means. So the first thing that we need to understand on the lines of inclusions is gender congruence. Now, what is gender congruence? Very clearly, as you can see on your screens, it's congruence is basically the concept of harmonizing with one gender, and that starts from being comfortable with your own gender. Once you're very comfortable with your own body, with the sex that you're born with, accepting your own orientation that your mind pushes you towards, you are going to be completely okay with accepting a lot other people when you are making your mind bias free. Right? If you're not really obsessed with what gender you're born with, you are going to be more accepting. And that is establishing that harmony. Once that is set, you get to move towards understanding what is this diversity. You can obviously always choose to have this one particular thing forever, but only when you have diversity and you know how exactly to mix that, blend that, in what proportion you can blend that, that will give you the concept of inclusion, that will give you the beauty of having everything together, right? I mean, in a salad you can definitely spare the red cabbage and lettuce and all the other stuff, like maybe a little bit of boiled spinach and garlic and olive oil. You can actually spare everything, so what is remaining is probably cucumber or maybe tomatoes. That's basic. You can have that, there is no harm in having it, but you can also have a more diversified salad, a more colorful salad, by knowing how do you include the red cabbage and lettuce and broccoli, probably some bit of garlic, some salt, other seasonings, and maybe the olive oil. So that is the beauty of having variety in and around you, and knowing how exactly in what proportion do you blend them. Maybe a lot of managerial work goes into that to understand the right balance, the right strike, but we can definitely be more open and accepting anything and everything that comes our way without really having to take the load of judging it, right? There are two very interesting acronyms that are going to help you do that in practice. Over to you, Divya.
Right. So the first acronym that you can see is FLEX. Now, when we talk of flex, and as an individual, how do I become more inclusive and diverse in my approach? First is focus within. You need to tune into your own emotions. You need to recognize how your experiences have shaped your perspective. Turn that frustration into curiosity and do not assume. So try to connect with people around you. Try to just explore, and you will automatically learn a lot about people, about others' perspective. Consider their perspective. Give them that weightage. Just let's understand how their actions impact you and how their own actions impact themselves, because then that is very important to understand. You will then know that, okay, this person probably is from a different community altogether, from a different religion. Their thoughts, their actions, their values are different. So how do I incorporate that and then become a team? So you will automatically start gelling with that person, and automatically start respecting that person, and engage in dialogue. It's absolutely okay to sometimes not understand. Being inclusive does not happen overnight. You have to give it time. You have to give yourself time. So ask open-ended questions, listen to understand, and just not get into any kind of a close-ended debate full situation wherein contribute to the discussion, try and offer their views and also understand their views without just letting them, not speak up and you not asking them anything. And expand the options. Like I mentioned, it's very important to be very flexible, because we all know at times, in our life, we all have long term and short term goals. Sometimes we do choose a particular way, and if that does not work, we opt for other ways. That is where the entire thing comes into the picture, that be flexible, do not be too rigid. Try and explore and venture out different ways. Brainstorm, because at the end of the day, to come to a particular solution, we all will be going through a common way. We all have a common goal, and that will only happen when I brainstorm, evaluate, take into account that different people have different perspectives, and everything works in our favor. So that's the acronym FLEX. You just have to focus, learn, engage, and expand the options, and you will automatically start becoming more inclusive and more approachable also. The next one, bingo. I guess time and again, we all have played what bingo is. Like as a kid, we all have played bingo. We've had a lot of challenges, bingo challenges, over the past 2 years of being in lockdown. So yes, be aware of the people around you, be aware to their notions, be aware of the fact that sometimes you might end up saying something which will hurt the other person. So be aware and sensitive towards the other person. Include others. There can be times when you do not like the other person, or you feel the other person does not belong to your team, but give that person that one chance. And do not assume, like I mentioned, don't assume from the beginning. You automatically will start knowing the person once you get along with the person. Give respect and openly communicate. So going forward, remember these two words, flex and bingo, and most of the things will get sorted automatically.
Thank you so much for taking that part up, Talika. I think now we have arrived at the different strategies of addressing the inequalities at our level, at the micro level, right? Where we can probably understand how we are diverse, maybe include people taking their personalities into considerations and not their gender, be comfortable around the personalities and not be uncomfortable with the gender. And using the flex, using the bingo, we really understand how to make our minds always stay grounded, always be more aware, always be more respectful, and always show that feeling of the fact that you are needed. You know, everybody is important, everybody is needed. It's not that I'm going to do it all by myself, until unless I don't have something really reserved against you, and that would need some other sort of a solution. But now that we have come this far, I'm sure this has been a lot draining because the topic was heavy. So I have a very small visualization activity planned for all of you that would help you all relax for a bit, and that would also help us all build, build on imagining a world that is more gender neutral, right? So this can be your personal go-to technique whenever you're losing out on establishing that equality bit. It will not take a lot of time for me to do it, and this is just going to be a first bit of you to feel more relaxed and connected to your own self. I would want all of you to be by my voice. And once you're ready for that, please give me a thumbs up or yeses in the chat box so that I know that I can begin with it. And I would want everybody else to just mute themselves because I need silence for it. Thanks, Shweta. Okay, I've got a couple of yeses. Thank you so much, people. So I can begin now. Yes. As I mentioned, this activity would basically help us understand and try and build a society and space which is more gender neutral, which makes everybody feel comfortable. It is a visualization tool. So that would require you all to probably close your eyes for a minute and maybe just hear, just listen and do whatever my voice tells you to do. Okay, so now that I am assuming everybody is closed, I can begin it. Now, visualization being a very powerful tool, we begin that with deep breaths. To make yourself seated comfortably and gently close your eyes. Bring your attention to your breath and take a couple of deep breaths. Slow, deep breaths. And as you continue to breathe deeply and slowly, bring your attention to your imagination. You're going to use it to visualize a gender neutral world. For this, you can pick any space that you are comfortable with. It can be a school, a theater, mall, or even a bus stand. Once you pick the space, think of at least one thing that would make this place gender neutral. It can be any big or small change that you want to include. And you can be as creative as you would like to be, because nothing here is right and wrong. And as you imagine this, acknowledge that you have just taken one of the first steps to make this world a gender neutral space. Try to see how the steps taken by you have made a significant difference in bringing gender neutrality to that space. Acknowledge your efforts. See how it makes you feel good about yourself. You have done a great job. Now, gently rub your palms to generate some heat and place it on your eyes. To open them. If you want to take some more time to come back to the present, allow that space to yourself and relax. Thank you so much for being so patient with me throughout.
Thank you, guys.
I would really want to ideally hear from you. What is it that you could imagine? What changes were you able to bring in? But if you want to keep it to yourself, I would respect that too. But any which ways, thank you so much for being so kind to us and making it such interactive with very interesting questions that you people threw us. It was great taking it all up. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
If there are any
Thank
questions,
you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Nothing.